Good afternoon, everybody. It's Ardusv
And Sam.
with Cajun Couple Trucking. Today we're talking about something that my wife doesn't know a whole lot about, but we're still going to get her insight as a new person in a truck. But we're going to talk about your fifth wheel and how you should drive in slick conditions in a truck. So, yes, as you guessed it, this is about winter safety. So we'll see you in just a moment. New little drone footage for the intro. But yeah, we just got to mention it. We've been trying to figure out stuff to put on the truck for Christmas. We've been thinking about a wreath or a cross on the front, stuff like that. But we saw at a Flying J these little Super Trucker L's. They have the Super Trucker headset on, and so even have a Flying J name badge. You could write a name in. So we took one and we put it on my door handle, and we got it to where his arms are around the handle and his legs flap around while we're driving down the road.
Looks like he's flying.
Yeah, it looks like he's holding on for dear life is what it looks like.
That too.
And it has been drawing so much attention. We've had not only truckers, but cars come up beside me. And they notice someone's behind them. They'll pull up, come in front of me, let whoever is passing come back and get next to us and start taking pictures. So my wife is like, I want to put one on my side. So we got one. Actually, I think it was last night or yesterday. Put it on. And we just had a trucker walk between our truck and his truck. And he stopped. He went. And he actually reached and touched it like, what is this? Then he backed away and ran. I watched him in the mirror run into his own truck because he was still looking at the elf going, oh. He bumped into his own truck. He turned around and got in it. It was hilarious. But that has been the most fun, the last few days. Because people are taking pictures, videos, and kids are loving it. It's just,
bringing them joy.
Oh, yeah. Turn that alarm off. That's my eating alarm, but I already ate. So, anyway, what we're talking about is winter safety. I understand some of you may have been driving for years, and what I'm going to give you is knowledge that I got in a professional truck driving school in a professional setting, and from a driver who had 15 years experience as my trainer the first time around, who primarily drives in the north, lives in Idaho, is constantly driving in the snow, in the ice, in rain. First off, your biggest safety equipment, biggest piece of safety equipment is not your brakes. It is not your transmission. It's not your interlock. It's not your Jake brake. It's you yourself. If you're not alert, there's nothing that truck has that's going to save you from an accident. That being said, when I taught my kids how to drive, before they ever got behind the wheel, we played a game. And when someone passed us, they had to tell me it was male or female, what color shirt they were wearing, what they were doing while they were driving, if they were doing anything else other than driving, what color car they were driving. And if you can tell me those small details, then you're paying enough attention to actually be able to predict people's habits and what they're going to do. So, I'm not saying you have to do it, but I know for a fact, especially going through training all over again because I let my CDL go, that we're not training drivers like we used to, number one. Number two, even if you get to ride with your trainer in the winter, 9 times out of 10, he's got you in this seat when he's sleeping, and when you're sleeping, he's in this seat. There's no instruction going on for most of our instructors, or most of our TNC. And yes, you may have been driving for 15 years and never gotten in an accident, never lost traction. That doesn't mean you won't. Okay. It took me, 30-something years of driving before I got in my first accident. I was driving vehicles and all. I have driven through extreme conditions. With an 18-wheeler, I've driven through several winters. Um, I've driven with a tornado next to me, traveling down the interstate, wide open land everywhere. Um, I've never driven an 18-wheeler in a hurricane. I have driven personal vehicles in hurricanes. One time to go rescue her mom and dad and brothers and sisters because they were evacuating and their car broke down. So I know a lot about these things, and yes, I did shut down the other day because of 5 winds and an empty trailer. I'm not going to be stupid. I'm not going to put my life, my wife's life, or my job on the line when I know, I can park and drive tomorrow and be safe, or drive in 2 days and be safe. So let's start with our safety. Our safety. We have our Jake brake. That's great in dry weather. We'll get to that in a minute. We have our brakes. We have our interlock, which is nice, but you don't want to use that over 20 miles an hour. Your interlock is to engage that second set of drives so that you can get out of situations like when that guy backed into us, if you've been watching our channel. When that guy backed into us, he didn't use his interlock. If he had used his interlock, he could have pulled out real easily from that small hole he was in. But when you're in ice and snow, that comes in pretty handy. Okay, so I got my little job aid here. And what we're going to first talk about is this little thing right here. It's called your fifth wheel. We all know it. You had to learn it. But let me tell you something about that fifth wheel. It needs to be greased properly, and greased a lot. And I mean a lot. I don't condone it because you're putting dirty grease back on the fifth wheel. But in situations where you need grease and you don't have grease, you can use a putty knife, scrape that grease off the side of the fifth wheel, put it back on, cover those dry spots. If your fifth wheel is not properly greased, and I got to tell this story, I know I said it in a couple of videos before I tell it. I was at the Springfield terminal. I saw a guy go through the drive in just his tractor, through the wash in just his tractor. Well, I was walking, saw the tractor pull out on me. So I'm walking from the pad to the Millennium Building. I was going to get lunch. And this guy comes out, goes, and he parks, and he hops out right next to me as I'm walking. And I asked him, I said, you need a tractor wash? He goes, yeah, it was about time for a tractor wash. It was dirty. I said, why didn't you hook up to a trailer and go through it? It's $10. When you hook up to a trailer, it's what, like $30, $40 when you don't? And he said, oh, but that fifth wheel was dirty. It was full of grease. It really needed to be clean. When you have a clean fifth wheel and it's dry, what happens is that trailer is on there and you're not traveling straight. Any cant, that trailer's, when you give it fuel and try to straighten it back up, that trailer's going to rub and it's going to cause you problems. It's the quickest way, well, I'll take that back, the second quickest way to jack out your truck. The quickest way is while your tractor's canted to hit your brakes. Because that sudden shift, weight, that load's going to keep pushing. It's going to jack out. If your fifth wheel is not greased properly, what happens is it catches. Now, whenever you continue to pull or try to pull, what's happening is that trailer's pushing. These tires are already not getting very much traction because you're off. You're not making a turn, and push through it. Just because that's a pivot point doesn't mean it's always going to pivot the way you want it. Going uphill. As long as you have traction, that trailer's going to follow you. You lose traction, What happens when you lose traction? The slowest wheel, or the wheel without traction, wants to leave, so it's going to start turning. Let off the fuel. As soon as those drives catch, you're going to feel it jolt. It's going to jolt. Get on the fuel easy, and going uphill is going to fix itself. Going downhill is completely different. When you're going downhill, now instead of having the weight in the trailer pulling on you, it's pushing on you because of gravity. So when that loses traction, this is going to keep coming. All right? You're counting on these brakes, but these brakes usually activate after these brakes, which means you hit the brakes, you're losing more traction on your drives, and it's going to make it easier to jack. So the easiest way to stop from jackknifing is to never get in the situation again. Now, I'm not saying I'll never have a jackknife incident. Keep driving long enough, it may or may not happen. It's just, but you want to limit access for the trailer to actually have the opportunity to jackknife. So, we all know going uphill in the winter, get a patch of ice, you lose traction. It may slide a little bit, but as soon as you get traction, you can straighten it back up. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, right? So going uphill is not that bad. And we will cover chains, we will cover cables, we will cover socks in a later episode. What we want to talk about right now is something that you probably didn't learn is when you're on slick road conditions, that means rain, that means ice, that means snow, that Jake brake should not be used. You know what? Do you know why, babe?
No.
Okay. When you engage that Jake brake, first, second, or third level, doesn't matter which, you are having the engine change the speed of your tires. And it changes pretty drastically, especially if you go down to the third setting. Now, first setting just changes a little bit. Second setting a little bit more. Third setting drastic. It almost feels like you engage your brakes. In fact, when you're needing to brake quickly on dry pavement, that's one of the most efficient ways to do it. Pull it all the way down, use your brakes. But in slick conditions, it's going to change the rotation of the tires drastically. It's going to drastically reduce the RPMs of those tires. What happens when you're on ice and you reduce the RPMs of the tire? Now you're in a skid. Now you're on top of the ice. Now you're sliding on black ice. All right? Don't ever use the Jake brake. Icy conditions. Wet conditions, I'm going to say don't, because if you hit a patch of oil or something, it'll have the same effect. But as long as you can see good spray coming from your drives and your trailer, it should be okay to use the Jake brake. Use your own judgment on that. But on ice and snow, you should never use the Jake brake. I demonstrated this last year when we were in the hot shot with my wife. I put the Jake brake on while we were going up a mountain, not down a mountain. And the second there was snow on the ground, fresh snow, the second those tires, that Jake brake engaged, those tires lost traction. Another thing to not use in wet or slick conditions is your cruise control. I know Brian's honest about using cruise control. Use cruise control, use cruise control, use cruise control. Use it wherever you can, whenever you can, as often as you can. But the problem is when you lose traction, cruise control does disengage by itself. It's supposed to, but only after you've lost traction for about a half a second. Anybody who knows you got a fully loaded trailer, you lose traction, you can jackknife in a second and a half. Okay? Unless you hit the brakes, then you can jackknife quicker. Right? So, don't use cruise control. You want to feel that. You're going to feel the traction loss in your foot on the pedal before you're going to feel it in your seat. Believe me, you're going to feel it in your seat. You're going to feel like your truck's trying to kick you out of the seat, move over. That is very imperative that we get off the cruise control trim when there's snow and ice. Now, if you're driving down I-10, it's clear. It may be 28 degrees, but it's clear. Roads are dry. Use cruise control. Use your jake brake. It's when ice and snow are present we want to stop. Now, so stay off cruise control, stay off jake brake. How do we brake? All right. Well, for one, you should be a parent. You should know your surroundings. You should have doubled or tripled your following distance for vehicles around you. That will give you plenty of time to get on that brake. And if you start sliding, let off, get traction, get back on the brake. Going down mountains, different, right? Because you're going down a snow-covered mountain, possible ice on the road. How do I slow down? This is what we call stab braking. White's heard me talk about stab braking before. You remember what stab braking is?
Let go. Type thing. I don't know.
You don't want to overheat your brakes. Now, I know people say, oh, you can't do that in the winter. I have seen people pull over on the side of the road, throwing snow on their brakes, trying not to let their tire catch on fire. Because once you get a tire fire, that's a chemical fire. There's no putting it out, right? That will burn your truck to the ground if you start a tire fire. It's just really easy. So, how do we do it? Stab braking is when you engage the brake hard enough that you lose 5 miles per hour in a 3-second time. So when you hit that brake, you count 1001, 1002, 1003, your speedometer should drop 5 miles per hour. When you let off, it's going to drop another 2 to 3 miles per hour. Then you'll start picking up speed again because gravity's pushing you. All that weight in the trailer is pushing you down the mountain, right? So, stab braking, and how you should do it is when you get to the truck speed limit. We're not talking get up to 75 miles per hour coming down 4th of July Pass and decide, oh, now it's time for me to hit my brakes. Too late now. All right? You're coming down 4th of July Pass. I want to say that the truck speed limit is like 55 miles an hour. Every curve has a speed limit. If it says 45, you should be at 40. When you hit that speed limit of 55, you shouldn't wait till 60 and slow yourself back down to the speed limit. You should slow yourself back down to 50. You remember, you're driving in slick conditions where ice could be anywhere. Another thing that you should have been taught, but a lot of people aren't now, is you should be accelerating out of curves, but entering into curves at a slower rate. You should never use your jake brake or your brakes in a curve, especially in slick conditions, because while your truck's canted like this and you're pulling this around the curve, what happens when you hit your brakes? Change the speed of your drives, slick conditions. You start pulling around. Now your trailer's pushing. You have no traction. You cannot recover. It's going to jackknife. Okay? So, jackknife, roll. That's usually what happens on a mountain. Jackknife, you go in the median, roll over. Please don't be a victim of this. Please watch what you're doing. Increase following distance. Use stab braking. The reason why you don't want to use these safety features when it's slick outside is, if you've ever noticed, you're coming down the mountain, you use your jake brake. You get about 5 miles per hour in the speed limit, you take your jake brake off. What happens? For about the next 3 seconds, your jake brake is still engaged. If your mercury switch for your jake brake, which is active when you have cruise control on, if you're over a 3-degree downgrade, that jake brake's going to stay on automatically because your cruise is on. Turn it off. It's just, and in your feet, you will feel you lose traction before the truck reacts. minute milliseconds before the truck reacts. But that gives you a jump on reacting yourself. Practice your stab braking while it's still dry out there. Please practice your stab braking. Get up to the speed limit, brake, back off about 5 miles per hour under the speed limit, then let off. Going back to the corners. Like I say, you should be accelerating. If the speed limit is 45 for trucks in that curve, you should enter that curve doing 40. You should be off your brakes and off your Jake brake before you enter the curve, because in the slick conditions, you lose control and jackknife very quickly. About halfway through the curve, give her the fuel again. Start speeding up. You should be able to time these curves to where when you're back on the straightaway, you're right about at the speed limit for trucks. Let me stress that again. For trucks. A car, in the mountains, car speed limit might be 80, 85. That's fine. Let them do 80, 85. If your speed limit is 60 or 55, you should be doing 60 or 55. You should not be doing 80 and 85. Okay? This is just, to me, common sense, but I've been driving big vehicles for a long time. If you have any questions, feel free to drop, a comment, question. If you feel like it's something that you don't want to put out in the public, hey, there are no stupid questions, just stupid answers, right? But if you don't feel comfortable asking a question, my cell phone number is in it. That's my cell phone number. It's my email address. Shoot me a text. It's the best way to get in touch with me. Okay? A text. Call me. I'm driving. I'm not going to answer. All right? Shoot me a text, and when I stop, I'll answer. But why I'm sharing this is I want everybody to be safe. We've already yesterday had a truck ran a school bus of kids, killed 3 people and injured, 15 others?
Quite a few, yeah.
In Ohio. When we don't know the situation, but the only situation we can even fathom that a truck should run into the back of a bus is someone cut that bus off or brake checked that bus, and that bus came over into his lane within 100 feet of him, hard braking. It's the only way. Any other circumstance, that should have never happened. Okay. We'll talk about chains and socks and difference and cables and where to put them on your truck in another video. Because that changes where you're at. But just keep in mind that when an officer tells you single drag chain, that doesn't mean you're going to hook up a chain somewhere and let it drag. That means you're going to put chains on one axle of your truck. Depending on where you're at, you may put one on the front axle of the trailer, and on the other side, put a chain on the rear axle. It doesn't mean just one chain. It means one axle gets chained, or 2 chains on your trailer. When they say 2 drag chains, all of your tires on your trailer get chained. I'm saying this for our reefer guys. I know with bud wheels it's a little bit different, because with the drag chains you don't have to chain up the bud wheels, just one tire in some situations. So we can talk about that a little bit later. However, we want you to be safe. We want to see you. We want everyone to still be on the road next year. So please practice these things before winter hits. And I don't care what all these super truckers say, all these guys with these headsets, all these guys that say they've been driving 30, 40, 50 years. Let me tell you something about some of these guys who've been driving 30, 40, 50 years. They will tell you stuff just to see if you're going to be stupid enough to follow their suggestion. Then they're going to laugh at you when they see you on the side, when they see you roll over at the bottom of the mountain because you followed their directions.
Not everyone has your best interest at heart.
Right.
I mean, we've heard people tell other people stuff that we're like, no, do the exact opposite of what that guy said.
Yeah.
That, you know, definitely you don't want to put grease on your fifth wheel like a cake, but you don't want to have it
It's
cleaned off. I mean,
in the case of greasing a fifth wheel, more grease is better. I mean, let's just face it. When you slide up underneath that skid plate, any excess is going to be pushed off. Okay, so you can put as much as you want. You put 4 inches in it. It doesn't matter.
it's gonna make a mess.
It's going to make a mess all over the back of your truck. I mean, as far as it's going to push it over onto your drive shaft and a bunch of other stuff. It's going to be all over your catwalk and all. But if it's not properly greased, this can't pivot and allow you to recover quick. Okay, so there is a point where there's too much, but when you back underneath the trailer, that skid plate's going to push that too much off. Now, in the reefer division, flatbed, not so much, but reefer and tanker, we switch trailers a lot. And I mean a lot. When you pull out, every time you pull out from a trailer or back up underneath a new trailer, you should be checking that fifth wheel for grease. Now, buying just regular grease is not going to cut it. Those greases are built for, like greasing Walmart. That's built for home use. It's not built for industrial use. It's built for, you can grease about the biggest thing I would grease would be like, heck, I wouldn't even put that grease in universal joints. I'd put it on ball joints maybe. Universal joints, I prefer, and I'm a tech, I prefer a high quality grease. Higher quality than what you can buy at Walmart. Now, on that fifth wheel, we need a lubricant that's going to stick, and a lubricant that's not going to freeze, and a lubricant that is going to handle that weight. You gotta remember, it's a lot of weight. I mean, you're talking 34,000 pounds on your drives when you're fully loaded, right? So that, a lot of that is above that fifth wheel. So you want a grease that's going to stick around for workload. So that tacky grease, you can buy grease in those little packets for $5 to $7 at truck stops. They say get 2, put 1 on each of the horseshoe part.
Pointer.
Like, here's your fifth wheel. Put 1 here, and then back up underneath. And don't worry about opening the bag and squirting it. These bags are a petroleum product that is designed to disintegrate when under pressure. And it actually becomes part of the petroleum product. So you put them on there, boom, boom, back up underneath your trailer, and your trailer squashes those bags and spreads the grease for you. So you don't have to get your hands dirty. I prefer the Lucas fifth wheel grease. Now, if you do like some of these people do with the tacky grease and they squirt it on and it stays there for days and days and does nothing, this fifth wheel lube won't do that. This fifth wheel lube goes in a big, thick line and then kind of just melts. So if you don't back underneath the trailer right away, it will melt and it will move, but it's going to fill every nook and cranny on that fifth wheel. Another thing is, if you have a dry spot on the fifth wheel, it will rust very quickly. It'll get a fine layer of rust. That's one of the easiest way to find a dry spot. But you want to make sure that everything is greased. It is fully glued on that fifth wheel. And check it every time you pull out and back up underneath the trailer. Now, you think I might have covered pretty much everything as far as that goes?
Pretty much. It's gonna be cold though, so protect yourself too.
Yes.
Your hands, your face.
Get you a good weather app, and if you see a flash freeze warning, you're not misreading it. They didn't mistype it. It isn't a flash freeze warning where water hits the ground and it can freeze instantly. It kind of is, but the flesh freeze warning, for those of you that have never been in the north in the winter, is where flesh, your fingers, your nose, your ears, your toes can freeze and get frostbite without ever having to touch water. It doesn't take much. So we have full masks that cover everything but our eyes. Yes, your eyes can freeze, but your body usually reacts quickly enough. You start blinking your eyes so fast, like you can't see it. Gloves, 2 layers of gloves if you have to. Wool socks, you know, thermals, and then when you hop out at that truck stop, try not to stay out. I mean, if your dog needs to go, bring your dog and get back in your truck or get inside that truck stop. Be careful when these truck stops start plowing and stuff. Sometimes they leave ice behind. You can slide. If a strong wind comes across, you can slide into the truck next to you.
Did it once. I slid just walking last year. So.
Yeah.
I didn't slide a truck. I slid myself.
But there's lots of things to be used to. And you can be out here for 15, 20 years doing things the same way you do in summer, fall, spring, and never have an accident. Just like you can jump off the roof of your house. You can go backflip off the top of the roof of your house land on your feet every single day for 10 years. It's that one time that'll get you. That's why I'm talking about
overconfidence
this.
or not paying attention or things like that. I've done this a million times. I'm gonna be fine. I don't need to worry about anything. You get too cocky and you don't pay attention to the little details and you fail to react in the proper amount of time.
And one of our, like I say, our best safety equipment is us. I say that because your mind can compute, can do trillions of computations in fractions of seconds, more than the best AI or best computer out there. There's nothing that can compete with your mind. And I say that because I know people say, oh, AI is so smart, it can put things together, it can do all this, it can research so quickly. But that's all it does. It's not perceiving the outside world like we do. It's not ambulatory. It's not doing billions. I mean, you gotta think of it. Just to put one finger up, activating millions of nerve endings, along with hundreds of muscles, throughout your body. Just to raise your hand and put your finger up in the air. And a computer has to compute every bit, so does our brain. So, your best defense is it's just making sure you know what's going on around you. You're looking down the road, 500 yards in front of you, the truck starts sliding. Pretty much guarantee he hit a patch of ice, right? Whether he recovers or not has nothing to do with what you should do. If he recovers, the patch of ice is there. What are you going to do? If he doesn't recover, you got to stop or go around, right? What he did should have no bearing on what you did, except you process the information that he lost traction. If you're 100 feet behind him when he loses traction, guess what? You're probably the reason that his trailer went around him because you bumped his trailer. Let's face facts here. We need to increase our following distance. We need to be aware of what's going on around us. We need to know and be able to predict things and run all those scenarios through your minds. Actively think. If this guy gets down at the bottom of that hill where it looks like it's an angle, a dip. There could be water down there, which could be frozen, which may not have gotten enough salt on it. I'm going to watch him. If he loses traction, now I know when I get there, I need to be off my fuel, off my brakes. So yes, my tires may go across the ice, but I'm not going to have a drastic change in the rotation or RPMs. And so I'm not going to lose traction and start skidding. Once I get across the ice, where I see the key picked up traction, then I'm going to get back on my fuel. Like, guys, you're in a median, ditch, you rolled over, you fell off the side of a mountain, that load's not going to get to its destination. So rushing and driving as fast as you can, driving careless, cutting people off, following someone 10 feet behind their trailer is not helping you at all. Because the one mistake that you make or somebody else makes, the load's still not going to get there. I would much rather the load be late and me still be alive and the load actually get there than the load not get there or me not being able to go back home and see my grandchildren and my children. So keep that in mind as you go, guys. To all of our new subscribers, we got several over the last 48 hours.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Catch up on our videos, comment. We do try to comment on everyone, even if it's just a thumbs up. We try to get through there and comment. My wife just finally got access to our, well, let me rephrase that. She finally asked for access, not got it to her. So that I didn't have to do it all alone. So I want to thank her for that because she's been going through all the comments and stuff while I'm driving. And, you know, if you feel like you want to contact us personally, my cell phone number's on there, my email address is on there. And like I've said in the past, the best way to contact us is to text our cell phone. Since we've talked about all that, anything else you can think of?
Be safe, slow down, don't be in a rush. I mean, that prevents more accidents than what you can even imagine.
And let me tell you something, I hear people all the time, well, if I drive 55, people are going to get mad at me and brake check me. You know what? I drove 55 for 2 weeks, so I was getting fully loaded up and down the mountains, 10.5 miles per gallon. That was my average. On flat, I could get up to 12 miles per gallon. Running I-10 around Texas, New Mexico, Louisiana. I-22. If you're heading west, you're going slightly uphill, and east, you're going slightly downhill. But in that 2 weeks, not one person cut me off for brake check. Not one.
They just went around.
They just went around and just let me do my thing.
As long as you're in the right lane.
In the right lane.
Don't do this in the left lane, please.
And I did it even on little 2-lane highways. I had people get on the radio and start yelling at me. You know what? It's real easy to turn the radio off. I did tell them, a couple times, I'm the kind of guy I say, hey, you can burn an extra $500 on fuel a week. I don't want to. Now this last week, we've had to run hammer down because we shut down for the wind. So we still need to make our pickup and our drop on time. So we ran. The load before that was a very, very, very tight load. Had I driven 60 miles an hour, 2 days, I would have had an hour and a half of time that I could have played with. That includes fueling and everything. So we pushed it up to 64, which is what our truck can do. And we made it there with, I want to say, like an hour and 15 minutes to spare.
Not much.
So we do that, and we will talk about trip planning a little bit more in depth. But we wanted to sit here and talk to y'all about safety in slick conditions. And it doesn't mean just ice and snow. We're also talking about rain. Now, if it's not pouring down, that oil's coming out of that asphalt. That oil has been left on that cement that's coming out. It's running off the road slowly. Makes for very, very slick conditions, almost like ice. So I know, going back through training, that a lot of the information is given to us as part of, you have to teach them this, you have to teach them this, you have to teach them. It's no longer part of the curriculum, no longer mandated by the federal government that you have to know this before you get your license. So I want to go over it and share my knowledge with you. And what you do with it is what you do with it. At least you now know a safe way. Now, the last thing I'm going to say about this is tires. I know a lot of you out there that are watching this, and this also applies to cars and regular trucks and trucks hauling trailers. All of this applies to everybody on the road, not just 18 wheelers. But the tread depth on your tires. If you haven't gotten your tires changed, and you are below 5/32 on your drives or on your steers, you need to get them changed. Even your trailer tires. If your trailer tires are below 5/32, you need to get in touch with your company and you need to have them changed. The reason being is you don't have enough tread to get through snow and ice and get contact with the road, then you're driving in dangerous situations. You're just a mobile missile waiting for its next target. So make sure. And that's the reason we still had tread on our drives. I had right at 5/32. Yeah, I wanted to trade them in before it got to where I wouldn't get, reimbursed for what tread was left. But we're also going into winter. I'm not going to drive anything with less than 5/32 tread. I'm sorry. I know we can get down to 2 on the drives and 4 on the steers. But if I don't have 5/32, I'm not moving in snow and ice. That's just me.
Check
Because
your
you're
air
not safe.
pressure.
Exactly.
Cold. Your air pressure will drop overnight while you're sleeping.
Talking to a tire expert.
Get up in the morning.
For 10 years. I remember her staying up till 2 a.m. doing VF Goodrich training, Michelin training,
but if
new specs and all.
Your air in your tire, that tire running low, it's going to make it to where you slide easier also. You're not going to have the grip you need to have. And please don't let people tell you that you can kick or thump your tire and tell if the air is low. You cannot.
Just a little insight on that.
Don't do that.
Michelin at the truck rallies, Michelin and VF Goodrich both have put up booths every year, giving out prizes to anybody who can take a tire thump the 2 tires, and tell them which one is low. One's at 70 pounds of pressure, the other one's at 110. Not one person in 10 years, not one. And I don't care who you talk to, I don't care what they say. I've had a guy tell me to my face, I can tell. I had a flat tire, flat. I mean, almost separated from the rim. And he thumped the tread. Well, I say flat. It had like 30 pounds of pressure.
Yeah, it didn't have much. It had like 35,
yeah.
30, 35, something like that.
And he says, oh, it's good. I pulled and I put the gauge on it, and it's when it said 30, he was surprised. You can't tell by kicking or thumping a tire. The only thing you can tell is, does it have some air in it, or is it completely flat? Okay?
30 pounds of pressure is some air, but it's not going to get you through the snow.
And it's not going to get you, it's not going to hold weight.
No.
It's not going to do good. So, guys, throw those tire thumpers away.
Guys,
I mean,
girls, whoever has the tire thumpers,
stop kicking the tires.
That.
I mean,
come on.
You may see me on occasion with the tire thumper or with a hammer or something. It's not because I'm thumping tires. I may pretend to thump tires.
You may thump snow off the tires.
I'm carrying it because somebody somewhere somehow I saw either on my video or in my mirrors someone lurking around my truck. I went out there with a
Tire thumper.
to check out what's going on. I make pretend like I'm thumping my tires, but I'm going out there, I'm checking my seal, I'm checking my lock, and I'm looking for who was back there.
See if they undid something.
Right. And if they come at me,
it's a person thumper at that point.
Yeah, there we go. But
hello,
that's you cannot tell if your tire's low. You can tell if it's flat. You can't tell if it's low with the tire. And the way these tires are, it's got too little pressure. It's got too little pressure. It's going to be like this. And so you're going to wear the outsides of the tire first. And it's going to squash a little bit, but it's not going to. If you're overfilled, it's going to be like this. And you're going to wear the middle of your tire first. Low or underfilled or overfilled. You're not going to ride with the flat. Not getting your full footprint, and you're not getting as much rubber as you can on the road to keep with traction.
That's what you want. You want as much rubber on that road as you can. You don't want it to be bowed in or bowed out, or just, you want it to sit how it's supposed to. The way all the grippies grab the road.
Now, I know we're oversimplifying it, but
yes.
Just, and I know we've gone a little bit longer on this video than most, but we want to make sure people are safe. And it makes us feel better to know we did everything we can. If someone who watches our video doesn't follow our advice and makes a mistake, or doesn't follow it how we presented it and makes a mistake, or doesn't use it at all, we did our best to keep it safe. So, your best defense on any accident is you and being aware. Don't get complacent. When you get complacent, bad things happen. It may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, it may not happen for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Bad things do happen when you get complacent. I have stories from the military of people getting complacent and juggling grenades for 5 years, and one day blows their hand off. Somebody who gets complacent cleaning their gun and shoots a toe off. People getting complacent driving, not making it home.
Or person that they run into doesn't make it home.
Right. And there's other, you get complacent, dog trainers get complacent, get bit. People who grew up around horses get complacent, get kicked, get bit, get thrown. Doesn't matter what you do. Raising cockatiels, I got complacent. Stuck my hand in the cage while they're sitting on eggs, and I check on the eggs every day. And I got that fire bit out of me because I had my head turned, and she was like, the female was like, "Hey, I'm here. Pay attention to me." So anything we do, anything, eating, we get too complacent, something's going to happen, and we never know how bad the consequences for us being complacent. So always, always, always be alert, and always, always, always have a plan of action, plan of escape, whatever you want to call it.
Plan
have
B,
something
the way
in
out.
your head that if this happens, I'm going to do this. Every single car that passes me, I've already formulated, is it going to cut in too soon? Is it going to brake check me? Is it going to take off like a rocket? Is it going to lose traction and start spinning? Those have all gone through my mind. And I do that for every truck, every car that passes every single day because I don't want to get complacent. So, we're going to go ahead and end it here. We're at 48 minutes, 41 seconds.
Wow.
So, yeah, we've talked a little bit. So, from us here at Cajun Couple Trucking, please stay safe. Please increase your follow distance, slow your speed. Let's all make it through this winter. And as always, keep your shiny side up. rubber side down, between the ditches. Catch you on the flip side.